Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Man Without a Title. This is episode 19. Um, can't believe I'm almost to 20 episodes already. So, um, this episode kind of personal. I've been putting this one off. This is kind of heavy, kind of different. To be honest with you, probably going to be one of the hardest and heaviest episodes I've done yet. Um, This episode is called Echoes of My Childhood. Because whether or not I want to admit it, the echoes of our childhood follows us into adulthood, and we all know that. It shapes us, how we love, how we trust, how we cope with things, and sometimes how we self-destruct. Over the past few episodes, God has been doing something. He's been, I don't know, he's been talking to me. Um, he took me away from my story and all that, and he put me into another part of the Bible, and he had me talking about that. And I think that by him doing that, he was kind of shaping me for what ultimately this episode is going to be about. Um, so I knew, I knew this was on my heart. I knew it was something that I was going to eventually have to do, something that I really didn't want to do. But because it's part of my past and it's been kind of locked up for 42 years, protected, guarded, sealed. Deep down, I truly thought, I mean, I'm over it. Like I said, 42 years, I've allowed this pain and everything to shape and kind of be the trajectory of my life without even realizing it. And I'm not speaking today again as someone who has it all figured out. I'm talking to you guys as someone who's still healing. And the funny thing is, God has a way to deal with things sometimes, and you don't want to deal with it that way, and He kind of makes you buckle down and just do what you have to do. But Satan's real, and boy, did I have a day today. Satan came at me all different ways because obviously this message, I don't want to do it. I'm looking for an excuse not to, but I don't want to disobey God, and this is what He has me saying. So, this is the story, and if this sounds familiar to you, and you kind of hear it echoing, about your childhood, maybe I'm here talking to you. I don't know, but my story, like I told you, starts at birth. As you guys know, I was born inside out, missing a leg, missing some fingers, upper lower, cleft palate, half a tongue, whatever. And when I came into this world, everyone says your mother, you feel, your mother's supposed to be the first one to hold you. And that wasn't the case for me. She wasn't the first one to hold me. Her mother, my grandmother was. Oh, well, you don't remember that. How could it start there? Well, see, here's the big thing to me. As I told you guys in first and second episode, we lived up above my grandmother and my grandfather. And as far back as I can remember, we had a mom, and she was there, but she wasn't. Okay, and I never, I never felt, I never experienced the love of a mother. I didn't grow up with a mother who made me feel like she was a fortress. A mother who made me feel like I was her everything. A mother whose arms were, you know, like every kid should have a safe space, safe spot, safe place. Now I need to be clear before I even get started here. Um, this is not bashing my mother. Um, I'm not putting her down. I'm not belittling her. And I have 6 siblings, and I'm not speaking for any of them. This is me speaking about myself and my experience and my issues. Okay, so let's get that straight before we go any further. So, just to make this clear, too, you know, again, I'm not putting blame or anything like that specifically on my mom for them. I'm just, you know, during all this, um, sure he wasn't perfect. Uh, sure he had his uh at fault, just like everybody does. Him, my mom, all of us. But this episode isn't for me to pick everybody here. Um, my dad, his issues, me and my dad have all passed, all that. That's a whole nother episode. So before anyone comes in the comments and says, "Oh, you point your dad to be the perfect," I never said that. My dad will be the first one to tell you he's not perfect. And he's done some stuff in his life that he wishes he wouldn't have done. Um, so you gotta understand the context of this and understand that not one time in my meaning to bash my mom, and that everyone else is perfect. I'm not saying that. My dad had his faults, my mom had his faults, but this episode, I'm telling my story about the relationship with my mom and the problems that came about from that. So please understand that. My upbringing, when I grew up, I realized something, that there was something else that my mother was in love with, and it wasn't me. My earliest memories in life are a mixture of moments of gaping holes. Growing up in Mount Oliver, little borough in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, it was a time that it was felt like as a kid chaos. My mom, couple different times she disappeared. She left us to chase whatever it was that she was chasing. Dealing with addiction, dealing with all her issues. So again, I felt like there should have been more memories. War memories. Security and laughter and all that. But instead, there's just a dark thread woven through everything. I think about it as uncertainty, waiting, emptiness. My mother, you know, she felt almost like a ghost, to me, again. Her presence was unpredictable, controlled by the feels of addiction and whatever else she was chasing at the time. One day she'd be there full of energy, promises, chaos, and the next day gone, vanished. And I always felt like she left behind the same thing: confusion, silence, pain. I didn't have words for it. I was too young to understand addiction and to understand absence. I didn't, you know, I, I understood the hollowness of her being gone and the feeling in my gut when she was gone, when she did left. I understand the question that I never got answered is why? Why? Where was she at? Why wasn't she here? It's my mom. Like, what could be more important than me? And those questions didn't just disappear. Planting a seed in my mind, a seed of, resentment, anger, a lot of self-doubt. And over time, them seeds grew into a forest in me, okay? Now, let's get one thing straight. My father did the best he knew how. He was a man of steady anchor in the storm we were dealing with. A man of quiet strength. He was a provider. He was a protector. He was a rock. He worked constantly out of town. And if any of you know my family, if you don't know, my dad owns an industrial painting company, so he travels a lot. I used to work there too, also. But it wasn't like he could paint the water tanks in the backyard. He traveled. So with the chaos of my mom, never knowing what was gonna happen, always something new. Is she gonna be there? Is she not? Is she coming back? If she does, how long is she gonna stay before something else? And then, it was always something. So, you know, he worked constantly trying to raise 7 kids, trying to fill that void that my mom left, and he had to do it all, and that's one thing I don't think he ever should have had to do. He could never fill the mom void, okay, because he didn't have that. So that mother's love everyone talks about, you can only get that from your mother. And I seen what my dad was doing. I seen now as an adult, I can look back and truly now appreciate what he actually carried on his shoulders. I see now that God was there through the whole process, comforting him. Because I don't know if it wasn't for Christ, I don't know what happened, what happened. Strengthening him, providing help when needed. The moments of pure exhaustion were obvious to me. The moments when the weight of everything was pressing down on him so hard, I thought his knees were going to give out. Even though I know it's not physical pressure, and in those moments, I saw his pain was hurting him in a different way too, because he loved my mom. He loved her, and she tried everything to make it work. It just didn't. Just couldn't work. And he tried everything to try to give us a complete home, not a dysfunctional home, not a typical American story. Divorced parents. He was trying not to do that, but there was no way out to avoid that. And the way God works is so wonderful. The way He places people. He placed people in my father's life. My Aunt Mary and my Uncle George, from a young age, they helped my dad out a lot. And they showed up. They showed us love. They gave us a sense of normality. The love and the gratitude that I owe them, I couldn't even put into words. The things that they did, the things that they took care of for my dad and for us kids, because before we moved away into Washington, PA, we were young. I mean, it was hard. And my Aunt Marianne and my Uncle George wasn't my dad, so he wasn't homeless too, but my Aunt Marianne tried her best. She did everything, and I love him for it to this day. But still, I was a kid with no mother. No one to teach me how to do laundry, or even do my laundry, help me with my homework, never showed me how to bath. Like, and no shoulder to rest on after a bad day at school, or I lost that basketball game, or no arms to crawl into. You just feel that mother's love. I had two older siblings, and I feel like they paid the price that they never should have had to pay. Because of my mom's absence, they landed square on their shoulders. It did, right on their shoulders. They had to grow up fast. They became young mothers before they was even allowed to be teenagers. Okay? And they raised their brothers and sisters or trying to figure out their own life for themselves. And what I owe them couldn't be repaid in 2 lifetimes. I didn't always show it. I didn't always treat them right. I didn't always appreciate them. I didn't express my gratitude to them. But I hope they know how much I love and I appreciate them. Because see, their love didn't stop even when we got older, right? It followed them into adulthood. It followed us into adulthood. When they got married, their homes became a safe place for us. Their husbands didn't hesitate. They took us in like they was their own. There was always a meal. There was always a place to stay. And later in life, when I wasn't even living right, I was living just outside of myself. They still tried to protect me. I remember overhearing my sister and my brother talking in another room. They didn't know I was listening. And I heard my sister say, well, let him stay here. At least if he's here, keep an eye on him. Make sure he's okay. That's love. And I owe them more than I'm ever able to repay. As I grew older and older and older, my resentment toward my mom, it grew. It grew very fast, very strong. And just at that time anymore, it wasn't just about her absence. It was about the feeling of betrayal, the feeling that she chose everything else over me. Now, let's be clear. I'm not blaming my mom for any of my choices in my life. I own my choices. I own my decisions. But the events that unfolded early in my life had an influence on the trajectory of my life. I became a rebel, man. The pain was overbearing, and I needed an outlet. And I found one. Oh, did I find one? My teenage years. Boy, were they fueled with drugs, women, parties. It was a blur. Gambling, money. It was just a blur. Um, Again, I had God's protection on me back then. I remember I was grounded, and my dad took my keys away to the car I had. And I wanted to go to this party. So I got the bright idea. I snuck out. I went to my dad's shop that was next door, and I took a 30-foot box truck, international big box truck. I stole it, and I took it to the party. I didn't know how to drive a vehicle at that time, let alone a big box truck, but I didn't care. I was chasing a high for anything, anything to fill a void. I was getting to that party. I was getting drunk. I was chasing the abandonment, right? The chaos became my comfort zone. It was a way that I was. It was a way for me to scream at God and scream at my father and my mother and blaming someone for the unfairness of it all. You know, I was lost, and I built these walls. Right, I pushed people away. I refused vulnerability. I wore this facade. I'm okay. I'm good. Everything's good. Everything's fine. What's wrong? I'm good. Everything's good. But see, them moments can only last for so long. Because the quiet moments, when the music stopped and the laughter faded and the pain came back, I knew it wasn't the substance. It was a turning point, and it wasn't a very dramatic one. It wasn't cinematic. It was a slow realization over years and years and years that I was absent from my own life. Okay? And the worst part was I was absent from my children's life. So the same thing I'm angry at my mother for, I was doing to my own kids. It was terrifying when I came to that conclusion. When I finally figured it out and God revealed it to me, He lit me open. He said, "This, you're blaming her, but look at you." That realization was terrifying when God gave it to me. I let Him try to comfort my pain. I had voids I had avoided for decades. Forgiveness, it wasn't, it's not about excusing her actions, okay? It's about releasing myself from the burden of hatred, okay? Because what God revealed to me is powerful. See, God showed me something through His Word when I was reading. The first thing ever written for the Bible was by God. It was the Ten Commandments. And the first four commandments are to govern our relationship with Him. The last six are to govern our relationship with each other. Now, I'm going to go here with commandment number 5. It says, "Honor your father and mother, that your days may be long upon the land which the Lord your God has given you." Okay? Now, it didn't say if they were good parents, even if they never abandoned you, or if they weren't addicts. There's no exceptions, okay? It says honor your father and mother, okay? So there's no exceptions. And honor isn't about the feeling, right? It's about obedience. I had to create my own laws in my heart, laws that excuse my bitterness, that we had this shelter of sin and we sheltered the compromise. But I had to repent, okay? Because healing doesn't erase the past, it redeems it, right? And I learned to set boundaries without hatred, to honor, but I don't have to give her access, okay? To forgive, even though it's hard to forget. And I stand on firmer ground now. I stand on Jesus Christ. And I could say the chaos is gone. The wildness faded. I remain in as much peace as I've ever felt in my life. It's not easy to think back on all that, and because for a long time I was very, 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 very shut out to my mom. I didn't call her, didn't talk to her, didn't do anything, and I didn't want nothing to do with her. I felt like I wanted to make her feel like I felt, right? But that's not honor, okay? And you see, if you keep looking in Matthew 15, um, it says that honor is not the honor you're thinking of. Honor is, it says it right in there. It says when they get older, to take care of them. When they get older, to be there for them, to help them anyway. First, I have to talk with my mom, and I have to let that go and forgive her for everything. And then I have to establish boundaries, and I have to still honor her because that's what the word says. That's what God tells us. Okay, it says in Matthew 15, verses 4 through 6, it says, "For God commanded, saying, honor your father and mother, and he who curses his father or mother, let him be put to death." So not only does it say that we have to honor them, if we don't, if we curse them, death is the punishment. But you say, well, I mean, I didn't say it, says it right here. But you say, whoever says to his father or mother, says to her father or mother, whatever profit you might have received from me is a gift from God. So, in one hand, it says, honor your father and mother, and if you don't, if you curse them, the punishment is death. So not only did he tell me what I need to do and how I need to go about taking care of this, he gave me the consequences. And if I don't do it, what what it says in his Bible, it's death. And so for me, I have to obey what he says. I'm gonna obey. And it's not gonna be easy at all. It's gonna be hard, but I have to do it. Even though the flesh in me wants to override the spirit in me and say, but look how she made you feel. Look what she did to you. Look what she did to your family. Look what she did. Yeah, she's still my mom. I have to honor her. So we have a commandment from God here telling us what we need to do. And some of us, some of you out there probably have this relationship with your mom, maybe, or your dad. Me and my dad's relationship always hasn't been hunky dory. I treat him like garbage enough times. I disrespected him, I dishonored him. And I'm taking care of that through Christ, obviously. But it's not an easy process. And it's not gonna happen overnight. If I don't do this and I don't go to my mother when I do, and talk to her and tell her what's on my heart and have that conversation with her. And I can't receive all the blessings that God has for me because I'm holding back. I'm disobeying Him. Well, he says here, tells me what to do in red letter. Okay, He tells me what to do, and if I don't do it, there's a punishment in here for that. Death. You will not live long upon this land. And I joke with my dad all the time about that. I said, well, because he was always the perfect kid, I joke with him. I said, you're gonna live forever if it goes off of this verse. But if it's not a joke, real, and that scares me because if that's the case. What's in store for me? I didn't do a very good job of honoring my father and my mother. So just to wrap this all up and bring this all home, this was a hard enough episode as it was for me to sit here and drag it on. Let's just if your childhood echoes in your mind, still haunts you like it does me, it represents shaping of your heart. And don't avoid your obedience, okay? Don't let your past disqualify you for the blessings of Christ. Let your past prepare you for what's in store. So just as I'm sitting here talking to you guys about a situation in my life with my mother, I could easily not second guess my two boys doing this same episode because I lived that life too. And for the rest of my life I have to live with that. And it wasn't their fault, it was my fault. And I'm dealing with that also. Michael and Cass, I love you guys. Mommy, I love you too. Anyway, this is Man Without a Title, episode 19. Echoes of Childhood. So until next time, stay rooted, stay honest, stay with Christ. God bless you guys. Have a good evening.